So today we're actually going to be talking about this guy named Marcellus Williams. And he is actually a person who got executed today at 6 p.m. Today is September 24th, 2024. And of course, I'm wondering, like, okay, well, what did he do? Is this racially motivated? Then I'm seeing people say about how there was DNA evidence that did not link to him at all. So I'm like, what? I was like, there's no evidence that this man did anything, y'all. What? This is crazy. So I did a little bit of digging and, you make your own opinion. I'm just going to be giving you the information that I found out about this case. So let's just go ahead and get into it. Okay. First off, I'm going to show you all this Twitter page right here. And this is Marcellus Williams. It says, has been executed, rest in power. This image right here, it says last statement, offender Williams Marcellus 163729. That's his inmate number. And it says, I would like to submit the following as my last statement. You could choose to or to not do it. Okay. And then they have the staff witness, and this was done on the 21st. And it says, all praise be to Allah in every situation. So obviously he was a Muslim man, probably converted into the Nation of Islam, I am going to presume. So then I went and saw this one, and it says the governor of Missouri does not have to execute Marcellus Williams. Like I said, with the petition, he could choose to pardon or not. All right. It says he wants to. They said this is the monster, this guy right here. Let me go ahead and make the image a little bit larger. Okay. So people are saying, yo, you should have pardoned this man. You should not have allowed for this thing to happen. It never should have happened. A Missouri inmate is set to die today. He did. Okay. And apparently he's been fighting for his freedom. Just another one. And this goes into what I was seeing. It says Marcellus Williams is going to be murdered in less than an hour. He already did. He already has been, regardless of the over 1.5 signatures on his petition. The last time I saw it was like at 60,000. So apparently it went up way more than that. No evidence or DNA. An innocent man is being murdered. Picture below is Mike Parson, the monster who's letting them. That's the governor. All right. So this is what I'm seeing. Okay. And I was like, well, I kind of want to see what originally happened. Like, what's the actual story? Because, with social media, people just say, oh, this happened, this happened. Well, what really happened? But before we get into that, here's a poem that he ended up writing. This is the poem that he ended up writing. It says, the perplexing smiles of the children of Palestine. So now I actually want to switch gears over to this page right here. This is lawjustice.com. This is State versus Williams. Okay. So this is essentially the minutes, the notes from the trial that took place. All right. I'm not going to read the whole thing because if y'all can see from this bar over here, it is quite lengthy. But I am going to read some key points from this. All right. And it says State of Missouri respondent versus Marcellus Williams. And it says January 14th, 2003, as modified on denial of rehearing. Okay. Of March 4th, 2003. And I'm going to start right here. It says a jury convicted Marcellus Williams of one count of first-degree murder, first-degree burglary, and first-degree robbery, and 2 counts of armed criminal action. Williams was sentenced to death on the murder conviction. Because Williams was sentenced to death, this court has exclusive appellate jurisdiction under Article 5, Section 3 of the Constitution. On direct appeal, this court accepts as truth all evidence favorable to the verdict, including all favorable inferences from the evidence. Okay. Now we're going to get into what actually took place from what they were saying in this courtroom. On August 11th, 1998, Williams drove his grandfather's Buick LeSabre to a bus stop and caught a bus to University City. Once there, he began looking for a house to break into. Williams came across the home of Felicia Gale. He knocked on the front door, but no one answered. Williams then knocked out a window pane near the door, reached in, unlocked the door, and entered Gail's home. He went to the second floor and heard water running in the shower. It was Gail. Williams went back downstairs, rummaged through the kitchen, found a large butcher knife, and waited. Gail left the shower and called out, asking if anyone was there. She came down the stairs. Williams attacked, stabbing this is not how many times, okay, but stabbing and cutting Gail 43 times, inflicting 7 fatal wounds. Afterwards, Williams went to an upstairs bathroom and washed off. He took a jacket and put it on to conceal the blood on his shirt. Before leaving, Williams placed Gail's purse and her husband's laptop, computer, and black carrying case in his backpack. The purse contained, among other things, a St. Louis Post-Dispatch ruler and a calculator. Williams left out the front door and caught a bus back to the Buick. After returning to the car, Williams picked up his girlfriend, Laura Asaro. Asaro noticed that despite the summer heat, Williams was wearing a jacket. When he removed the jacket, Asaro noticed that Williams' shirt was bloody and that he had scratches on his neck. Williams claimed he had been in a fight. Later in the day, Williams put his bloody clothes in a backpack and threw them into a sewer drain, claiming he no longer wanted them. Asaro, the girlfriend, also saw a laptop computer in the car. A day or two after the murder, Williams sold the computer to a Glenn Roberts. The next day, Asaro, the girlfriend, went to retrieve some clothes from the trunk of the car. Williams did not want her to look in the trunk and tried to push her away. Before he could, Asaro snatched the purse from the trunk. She looked inside and found Gail's Missouri State ID card and a black coin purse. Asaro demanded that Williams explain why he had Gail's purse. Williams then confessed that the purse belonged to the woman that he had killed. He explained in detail how he went into the kitchen, found a butcher knife, and waited for the woman to get out of the shower. He further explained that when the woman came downstairs from the shower, he stabbed her in the arm and then put his hand over her mouth and stabbed her in the neck, twisting the knife as he went. After relaying the details of the murder, Williams grabbed Asaro by the throat and threatened to kill her children, and her mother if she were to tell anyone. On August 31st, 1998, so this happened on the 11th of August, so this is now the 31st. On August 31st, 1998, Williams was arrested on unrelated charges and incarcerated at the St. Louis City Workhouse. From April until June 1999, Williams shared a room with a Henry Cole. One evening in May, Cole and Williams were watching TV and saw a news report about Gail's murder. Shortly after the news report, Williams told Cole that he had committed the crime. Over the next few weeks, Cole and Williams had several conversations about the murder, as he had done with Laura Asaro. Williams went into considerable detail about how he broke into the house and killed Gail. After Cole was released from jail in June 1999, he went to University City Police and told them about Williams's involvement in Gail's murder. He reported details of the crime that have never been made public. In November of 1999, University City Police approached Asaro to speak with her about the murder. Asaro told the police that Williams admitted to her that he had killed Gail. The next day, the police searched the Buick LeSabre and found the Post-Dispatch ruler and calculator belonging to Gail. The police also recovered the laptop computer from Glenn Roberts. The laptop was identified as the one stolen from Gail's residence. Williams was tried for Gail's murder and convicted. On appeal, Williams alleges 10 points of trial court error relating to evidentiary rulings of voir dire, and structural error and closing argument. He does not challenge the sufficiency of the evidence. All right, so this is interesting because we have of evidence a ruler in your grandfather's vehicle that you parked in an isolated, unknown location, then took a bus to her house. You then did the deed, then got on the bus and then got back to the vehicle, your vehicle, the Buick. So we have a ruler that was hers, a calculator that was hers, a purse that was hers, and an ID that was hers, and a laptop that was her husband's. Those are 5 pieces of evidence that we have in your possession, or were known to be in your possession, because whether you sold it or you did not. So I find that to be very interesting that this is what they have. But we're going to get into the other DNA stuff a little bit later. But reading this point right here, it says, on appeal, Williams alleged 10 points of trial court error relating to evidentiary rulings. Okay, and it says, voir dire. Okay, so the voir dire is essentially it's not having a biased jury. We could go over here because I went and looked it up. It says, so voir dire essentially means to speak the truth. The phrase voir dire literally means to speak the truth. In court, it refers to a process of determining whether a juror can serve fairly and impartially in a given case by asking the juror various questions. So, i.e., obviously we don't, if you're family, we don't want you up here. If you are known to have a bias, you're going to answer questions in a particular way. Anyone can lie, but if you can answer questions in a particular way, you may or may not be eligible to be up here because you may have a bias. So that was one of the things that he was saying, like, oh, there was a bias, and it said on there, I'm black, that's why. I would argue that's why they would give you the death penalty when we have school shooters and people who have done way worse who don't get that. But I wouldn't say that's why they locked you up at all. All right. Then we have structural error. And that was essentially like about note takings that jurors can do. And he was saying that essentially the judge gave them a verbal instruction of it, but not a written. And that a lot of this stuff seemed like we just have to go and say something. And we'll go to the closing argument. And that is this point down here. Okay, this is 4. And it says, this is Marcellus, argues that the trial court plainly erred in not intervening sua sponte to prevent the state from improperly personalizing the case by asking jurors to imagine the fear. Okay, so that's what this one was. So this one with the closing arguments. The whole point, if you are a successful lawyer, attorney, the whole point is to be as persuasive as you can to the jury, because they're going to say yay or nay. No matter what you say, they have to be convinced that what it is that you're saying is accurate. So could you persuade me enough? So essentially what he was saying was could you imagine the fear that she felt? And Marcellus's his court team, they were like, oh, well, you're over here trying to bring in some different kinds of feelings. And I'm like, isn't that, unless I'm tripping, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Because you're supposed to try to, persuade the people to go your way and not the other way. That's why when you see them, they'll talk to the judge, but they'll also go and look at the jury, because I have to persuade you. I mean, that's what has to happen anyways. So I found it interesting that they were saying like, oh, well, you're over here making them fear. They didn't threaten. And as you could see, it says, by asking jurors to imagine the fear that the girlfriend must have felt as Williams choked her and told her not to tell anyone to confess to the murder, as he confessed to the murder, arguing for jurors to place themselves in the shoes of the party of the victim. All right. It's not like he was saying, hey, if you guys don't do this, we're going to beat you up or anything. That's not what happened. The prosecutor in the case did not suggest personal danger to the juror or use a kind of graphic detail that would prejudice towards him. So I was looking at that. I was like, this isn't, you're just trying to delay something. You're trying to win. So that's what was going on. But in this case, I just personally didn't see it. We're going to scroll down a little bit more. I'm sorry, my nose, if I look extra red or pink, I got like some weird allergies or something going on. But we're going to scroll down to the bottom of this. And this is finally, this court concludes that the death sentence in this case is neither excessive nor disproportionate to the penalty imposed in similar cases, considering the crime, the strength of evidence, and the defendant. Okay. Now, You may say, well, Alex, out of all this stuff that you just read, you did not show anywhere up in here anything about any DNA. People talking about DNA, and you ain't talking about any DNA. Okay, so that's what this one is here for. It says Missouri governor says execution of convicted killer amid new DNA evidence. So this was originally posted in 2017, but then they did an update for, today. All right, now something I want to move down to is here. And it says Williams was convicted in the death of Felicia Gale. And this is her right here. So you can see her. A former reporter for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch newspaper who was stabbed 43 times in her home on August 1998. All right. The newly acquired evidence showed Williams, and this was at the time, newly acquired evidence showed Williams' DNA was not found on the murder weapon, his lawyers said, but that of another male. Okay. That evidence was not available when Williams went to trial in 2001. Court documents say Williams maintained and said that he was convicted on the testimony of individuals who themselves were convicted felons. Well, okay. Let's go ahead and then I'll talk about it. Forensic DNA expert and biologist Greg H., who was hired by defense lawyers, said when you're stabbing, DNA transfers because of restriction and force. If you're stabbing anyone, you have a good chance of transferring your DNA because of that force. The analysis of DNA on the knife isn't enough to incriminate someone, but it is enough to exclude someone, he said. It's like finding a social security card with some blurred numbers. There's still enough there to at least exclude someone. Hair samples found at the crime scene don't match Williams's DNA. A footprint found at the scene also does not match the defendant's shoe. But the state attorney general office, in addressing the new DNA evidence and court documents filed in federal court last week in opposition to a stay of execution, offered a possible explanation of why none of the DNA was found on the knife. All right, and then we're going to move on to here, and it says state confident in his guilt. The new DNA evidence does not come close to showing Williams is actually innocent, the documents state. It would be unsurprising if Williams, who wore a coat from the crime scene to cover his bloody shirt, wore gloves when he committed the burglary and the murder. The office said Williams's guilt was proven without DNA evidence. Based on the other non-DNA evidence in the case, our office is confident of Marcellus Williams' guilt. All right, and it says the non-DNA evidence includes the laptop belonging to the victim's husband, which Williams sold and police recovered. And some of the personal belongings, the calculator, the ruler, the purse, that round black purse, and then you had the ID, okay, the Missouri driver's license, which police found in the trunk of the car that Williams drove. Williams got picked up about 3 weeks after Gale was killed on unrelated charges. His cellmate from that time at a local jail, Henry Cole, and Laura Osaro, Williams' girlfriend, testified for the state, saying Williams told them separately that he had committed the murder. Okay, so listening to all of that, I was like, I don't know how innocent he actually was, because here's the thing, you didn't do anything, because what this is trying to come off as is he didn't do anything at all, but you had blood on you, and it's not like you paid off the girlfriend at all. Okay, it doesn't appear that even happened. There was no mention of that, so we're going to say that didn't happen. You didn't pay her off. You didn't give her $100,000 or $30,000 or $50,000 or $10,000 and say shh, and that's what she did. You threatened her. You choked her. Okay, so with this all being said, what reason would she have to? I mean, one, she didn't say anything for a long time. And then when the police came knocking, doom, 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 because your cellmate that you told literally everything to, Henry, once he got released, he said, this dude's a killer, y'all. What's going on? He ain't as innocent because he was in jail for a different charge. So this guy, he's like, this guy's a killer. Go and look into him. Here's a whole bunch of evidence. Here's a whole bunch of information. And here's the thing. When this dude Henry went to the police, he told him information that was not made public. So only the killer and anyone the killer talked to and the police would know. So how does he know? His story matches up with the girlfriend, ex-girlfriend, current girlfriend during that time, whatever. His story matches up with the girlfriend's story almost to a T. Obviously, he didn't tell her everything, but he told him everything because he had more time anyways. So their stories match. They never met each other before. They were not dating. They were not homeboy, homegirls, or whatever. So these are two random separate people who know the same story and know all this information. And you're telling me, I mean, the common denominator was Williams. It has to be. How, unless they, unless they got the eye, I don't know how else you would know this kind of information. I don't know how else you would know it. So looking at that, I'm like, okay, well, there's that. Then you got the bloody clothes. Of course, we don't have it now because you threw it down the sewer drain because you just didn't want it for whatever the reason, whatever. But you got the bloody shirt. And she's like, well, it's hot out here. It's August. It's hot. What are you wearing a jacket for? Because you knew you needed a jacket because it was going to be bloody. So, who's to say that you didn't wear some different kinds of shoes? You could, and you may say, this seems far-fetched. Is it though? Instead of driving your car to the murder scene, the crime scene, you parked it in some isolated area somewhere. You took a bus. You got off the bus, went to the house, did the deed. Then you walked back to the bus and then you went to the car. Well, why not just take the car if that's what you're going to do? I mean, you have the car. Why not just take the car? Why would you park it somewhere else and then use the bus? Unless you're planning on doing something that you shouldn't be doing. So that was something I was like, I don't know. You had her calculator, her calculator, her purse, her ruler, the laptop, and we know that you sold the laptop. The police were able to recover it. So unless you're telling me that you only robbed the place, because it didn't even seem like he was admitting to even robbing. So if you're saying, okay, I only robbed the place though. So you're telling me the killer was just lurking behind some bushes, doing one of these kind of things like this, waiting on you to do what you do. And then once you leave, then they go and attack? You would say, Alex, that makes no sense. Yeah. This sounds like somebody who actually did what it is that they were accused of. I don't know, and we could go in, look at, some of the other stuff. One thing I'm really curious about, she was a reporter. She worked for the newspaper anyways, okay? And I don't know if maybe she wrote a certain piece or if this was just a completely random thing. You just happen to be a newspaper writer, editor, whatever. Okay, they just said that she worked for, she was a reporter. All right, so I'm also curious. I'm just speculating at this point. Like, what would be the reasoning to do all this? 43 is excessive. If you just wanted to rob her, you could have robbed her and she wouldn't have known anything until after she got out the shower. So what would be the reasoning for murdering her? That's the thing I don't get. And you could go and say, oh, well, that's even more reason. I've seen people do crazy stuff where it's like, well, you didn't have to do that. Your girlfriend cheated on you and then you're like, okay. Or not. Your girlfriend just broke up with you because she ain't interested anymore. And then you go and shoot her. It's like, it could have been an easier way to just part ways. You know what I mean? Like, she said, I don't want to be with you. And you just say, okay, cool. So people do crazy stuff. I was just reading a story about how a woman went and shot her own daughter in the back of the neck. And then when the girl's in critical condition, she's over here telling her, well, tell someone a homeless man shot you, girl. Yeah, I'm going to do a video on that. But with this, it's interesting because I think he was wearing gloves. Okay. You're wearing gloves, but of course, I mean, if you're stabbing someone, you're going to get dirty. You're wearing gloves. You had the hoodie. You parked your car over there. We knew for a fact you had the hoodie. Okay. Because that's what the girlfriend said. All right. Because her story matches up with the cellmate story and they ain't never met each other. So we know that you had the hoodie. We know that you had the car and we know that you had the possessions. How'd you get them? These are her possessions. So how did you get them? You just didn't, did they just, I mean, what happened? Did they just magically appear in your car, or you would have had to go and steal them? And then to add on to that, the fact that you are Ray Ray and you're a career criminal, you committed another crime that was unrelated to this, and that's why you're in there. And what got me was how during the trial, he's going to say, who you going to believe? You're going to believe two felons? I mean, this guy was my cellmate, for crying out loud, and she's a felon too. So I'm going to believe a felon that says that they're innocent too. So you don't want me to believe two felons, but who have cooperating stories. This dude knew more information that he should never have known as being someone from the public because you told it to him. And then the girlfriend, she was so frightened for her life. You say you're going to go up and kill her. And now you can say, oh, well, she could have gone and reported it. What if you come out next month? You know what I mean? And let's say that somehow, some way, he's out on bond or something. And he actually does do what he said he was going to do. Okay? So I would not necessarily say, he wasn't going to do it. You never know. So, looking at all that, I just thought that was interesting. It's like, don't believe these felons, believe me, though. Well, I don't know. Because from my understanding, at least for me, I don't think this dude was as innocent as people are making it seem like. Now, the death penalty, because they're talking about the DNA evidence. Yeah, but you could always wear something. Then they said, oh, it was another man's hair that was somewhere, and then shoe prints. And, well, who's to say that these weren't altered? Who's to say that he didn't have a shoe size that was bigger? He was using his granddad's vehicle. Who says granddad doesn't have boots that are one size larger and he used these, or maybe it was one size smaller and he used these? I'm assuming you will wear gloves if you're going to commit crimes. If you're going to do it, I would assume you would try to cover up some tracks as much as you can. You had on the jacket, you discarded the bloody clothes, you made sure that you moved the car out of view, out of sight, so it's nowhere in connection to this. So I don't think this was a guy who was just like, ooh, I'm just going to spontaneously do something and let me go and park in front of her house. Otherwise, you would have just done that. But you didn't. I don't know. You got some people who they just want to kill people just to do it. I don't know if that necessarily was him, but I feel like it was. I don't know. I'm just looking at the data that is provided. And to me, this doesn't seem like an innocent man. I'm not seeing it. I don't know what other people are seeing. Yeah, you could say, okay, there's no DNA evidence. Yeah, but even with certain trials, OJ, okay, even though it was no DNA, you know what I mean? There's certain things about that even where it's like, I don't know. Okay, so I don't know. Let me know what you all think. Do you all think that the DNA should have been the concrete thing, or not? Are you for or against the death penalty, capital punishment? Let me know down below. Hello, hello, hello. I would greatly appreciate it if you can actually support my little small business called Latrice Limited. It is on latricelimited.com. So as you can see right here, I actually sell candles and a wide variety of other items as well. This is my big forehead, okay? But I actually want to show you just a couple of different items that I do sell. This is actually going to be a part of my soap collection that I have. As you can see, I have a variety of different soaps on here. I actually have 2 pages worth of soaps. And everything is handmade, okay, natural, clean ingredients as well. You can also see right here, these are my candles. All right, they're all handmade, everything vanilla, sweet roses, sage and vanilla and sweet roses are actually my favorite scents that I do have. I also have a few other items on here. I'm actually going to go and show you all the bath bombs that I do have. As you all can see, there's eucalyptus and sage, sweet pea harmony, and so many more. And then we're just going to finish off on the gift sets that I have. There's a variety of them, from like the big ones like this for 45, and then you have some of the smaller ones, and you have these itty bitty ones down here that includes essential oil blends. Definitely shop with your girl. Definitely help your girl out. I would greatly appreciate it. This is like my little baby over here. Okay. I would greatly appreciate it, and enjoy.